The rain fell in sheets, soaking through my thin dress as I stood at the edge of the street, clutching my battered suitcase. My heart pounded against my ribs, each beat a painful reminder of the words that had just been hurled at me. Get out! You're nothing but a burden! Those words, spoken with venom by Madame Grace, the woman I had served for 6 years, echoed in my mind. She had thrown me out like trash, accusing me of stealing a necklace I'd never even touched. No one in the household had defended me. Not the driver, not the cook, and certainly not her spoiled children, who always looked at me like I was invisible. I was alone. Again. The street was empty, save for the occasional car speeding past, splashing muddy water onto the sidewalk. My stomach growled, and my legs ached from standing. I had nowhere to go, no family to call. The world felt vast and cruel, and I was a speck of dust lost in its storm. It was then I saw the car. A sleek black Rolls-Royce rolled to a stop at the curb. The window lowered slightly, and a man's voice called out, "Are you all right, miss?" I froze, unsure how to respond. His voice was deep and calm, but I had learned long ago that kindness often came with strings attached. "Leave me alone," I mumbled, turning away. But the man didn't drive off. Instead, the door opened, and he stepped out. He was tall, dressed in an immaculate suit that must have cost more than I'd earned in my entire life. His face was handsome but stern, his eyes sharp as they studied me. "You're soaking wet," he said. "Come on, get in the car." "No," I said firmly, though my voice trembled. "I don't know you." "Fair enough," he replied, his lips curving into the faintest smile. "But you can't stand here all night in this rain. At least, let me take you somewhere safe." Something in his voice, an edge of sincerity, broke through my defenses. Against my better judgment, I climbed into the warm, luxurious interior of the car. He introduced himself as Mr. Adewale, a businessman on his way to an important meeting. As the car glided through the city streets, he asked me questions. Simple ones at first, like my name and where I was from. I answered cautiously, reluctant to share too much. When he asked why I was out in the rain, the dam broke. I told him everything. The years of mistreatment, the false accusation, the shame of being thrown out with nowhere to go. By the time I finished, tears streamed down my face, and I felt like a child, small and vulnerable. To my surprise, he listened intently, his expression unreadable. When I was done, he reached into his pocket and handed me a handkerchief. "You've been through a lot," he said softly, "but this doesn't have to be the end of your story." I didn't understand what he meant at first, but then he began to tell me about himself, how he'd grown up in poverty, raised by a single mother who worked as a maid. He knew what it was like to feel invisible, to be treated as less than human. "You remind me of her," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She was strong, just like you." That night, Mr. Adewale took me to his home, a sprawling mansion that seemed to exist in a different universe from the tiny room I had once shared with two other maids. He gave me a guest room, warm food, and, for the first time in years, a sense of dignity. Over the weeks that followed, he offered me a job as his personal assistant, a position that felt impossibly out of reach for someone like me. But he insisted, saying he saw potential in me that no one else had bothered to notice. The work was challenging, but he was patient, teaching me skills I never dreamed I'd have. He encouraged me to take classes, to dream bigger than the life I'd been resigned to. Months turned into years, and I grew into a person I barely recognized. I was no longer the timid maid, cowering in fear of harsh words or accusations. I became confident, capable, and for the first time, hopeful about the future. And Mr. Adewale? He became more than just my boss. He was my mentor, my guardian angel, the man who had seen something in me when I couldn't see it in myself. On the anniversary of the night we met, he handed me a small box. Inside was a gold necklace, simple yet elegant. I wanted you to have this, he said, his voice uncharacteristically soft. To remind you of how far you've come. I looked at the necklace, tears welling in my eyes. Thank you, I whispered. He smiled, the same warm, reassuring smile that had saved me on that rainy night. No need to thank me. You earned this. You earned everything. Sometimes I think about the life I left behind, the people who threw me away without a second thought. I wonder if they ever think of me, if they know the maid they discarded is now a woman who stands tall, unbroken. But most of all, I think about Mr. Attawell, the man who changed everything. He taught me that even in the darkest moments, there is hope.